I was able to talk with the people in New Mexico. Now, that's a big state with a similar sized population. Their experiences were very relevant, so I was able to talk with them in a very meaningful way about what they've experienced with technology and distance education, which I found very useful.
We went to Mississippi and we saw some very interesting small-scale community-based programs. And one of the things also we were given is some information about what are called, I think, intermediate support organizations.
We went to Montana, and I think it's a project where people were making these earrings in beads, and there were also some wood carvings. Okay, now our people could do something. So what we want to do is only to see maybe how other people have started, to at least to make people realize that their culture is very important in their lives.
What validated it for me was that the folks from Namibia who were on this wanted to spend time, make time to talk amongst themselves about what they were learning, to think about it. There were these key moments along the way where we would sort of caucus. You know, at the end of a long day, we would find a conference room in some Hotel 6 or wherever the heck we were staying and start to talk about what have we learned so far, what seems to be appropriate for Namibia. Not just in terms of developing a relationship with the RCCI, but gee, this is making us think about what the campus in Namibia might look like, might offer. In other words, it was putting flesh on the bones of some pretty vague notions that had been developing up until then, or had been circulating up until then. And it was, you know, it really exceeded my expectations. And what they also saw, which was my ulterior motive, was how these community colleges, well established as they are, were bringing the community together, were invigorating the community. The answer somehow lay with people in the community getting together and trying to thrash out the problems, and then drawing on the resources, both financial but in many other ways. And that the community college was sort of the locus for these discussions. It was the convener, and in some cases obviously provided some of the services.
The most important thing to them was that not only to focus maybe to academic programs, but they focused on the programs, which is the need for their people. Because if the community are involved, at least at the end of the day, they will say, this is ours. We were part of the decision makings, and this is ours.
We finished the trip. It was a 2-week-long trip. People went back to Namibia. And then a couple of very positive things happened. The relationship that was established between the folks who had gone on this trip and the people from the MDC and the RCCI representatives that we had met with. So I felt that, what's the line from Casablanca? This is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. This really was an opportunity. So then I returned to the issue that concerned me, which was the lack of sufficient planning. And MDC has a particular model. It's a version of a strategic planning process that they go through with their community colleges that are part of the RCCI. And I had suggested to the University of Namibia and the northern community that maybe they would want to embark on such a process in some form or another, some adaptation. After having visited the United States, they saw the value and the merit in doing that.
So we'd be meeting people who are sensitive, interested, sympathetic, knowledgeable, experienced, who we think could come to our situation and say, well, I know this, I've learned that, I see your situation, and talk with us as partners in dialogue.
And so that process began. This whole process that MDC has developed for the United States takes place over a long period of time, a whole series of meetings. There are some prescribed steps, and things go first before the next thing and then before the next thing. And the university especially was keen to accelerate the process. And MDC was counseling, no, go slow, let's do this right, we can't just rush. You know, there were real debates about that. But beyond that, there was this question of who would be in charge, who would be the lead facilitators, how closely would the university and the northern campus follow the pattern that MDC had developed. And this is, there were some real tough conversations, international telephone calls around this issue. But I think it was healthy. It was very, very healthy kind of tension, very creative tension. I didn't facilitate the conversations, but what I did, I sort of sat there as a kind of honest broker. and where I thought that things were perhaps, I mean, I didn't stop arguments or discussions that I wanted them to have, but if I thought things were getting derailed, I stepped in a couple of these conversations, and these were like conference calls between the United States and Namibia, saying, well, is this a possibility, or could we do this, or is this an alternative? Trying to get compromise on certain issues without undermining the process itself, or certainly undermining the wishes and needs of the Namibians. But it worked out. Everyone got through it. I've just basically described the entry point for our Northern Initiative, which has been around the campus. People becoming enthusiastic about the campus, convening, coming up with new ideas, working with new partners in their own community.
The Northern Campus is becoming quite an active place. It's just off the main street in Oshakati, which is a busy commercial strip, but it's a place where you see tremendous activity. On a given day, you might drive in there and see not only students studying and registering for courses, but you might also run into people who are meeting for one reason or another, attending a kind of a brown bag lunch series. There might be a cultural event going on. It's in some ways a wonderful metaphor for a civil society.